What if I told you a truck driver cracked the code to building a crypto empire? Meet Bitcoin Ben. He went from driving 18-wheelers to creating 6 different ways for regular people to stack Bitcoin and build wealth. This isn't just another crypto course. This is a complete ecosystem where you earn while you learn. First up, the confidential bulk purchase program. Get Bitcoin at wholesale prices through group buying power. Then there's Home to HODL. Convert your home equity directly into Bitcoin instead of cash. Need funding? The Loans for Bitcoin program gets you the capital to buy more crypto. Want passive income? Private Key Capital puts your Bitcoin to work. Hungry for something different? Bitcoin Ben's tokenized beef lets you invest in real cattle backed by blockchain technology. And if you want to mine? Bitcoin Ben's mining program gets you started with the right equipment and knowledge. But here's the kicker. Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club pays you to learn. Earn 10% on direct referrals, 5% on second level, 2% on third level. This might be the only membership where you make more than you pay. Ben went from 10 years behind the wheel to becoming the world's most unlikely crypto expert. Now he's sharing everything through live training, community events, and proven systems that work. Ready to stop watching from the sidelines? Join Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club today and start stacking sats while building your financial future. Your truck driving days are over. Your crypto empire starts now.
Good morning, and welcome to Bitcoin Thursdays with Dr. J. I'm Dr. J. Greetings from El Salvador, where we are cooking up some code for our credit union. Today is an all-day session that I'm going to be having with our engineering team, doing code reviews, policy reviews, and so on and so forth. But I tell you, before I get into today's presentation, you know, it's you have to get a little insight into the environment here. You know, you've got whiteboards and windows full of flowcharts. We have pizza boxes, half drunk cans of Red Bull. You know, and that's the team. The team is working. It's working really hard. So I come in and I go something like this. I go, all right, guys, I'm so excited to see this demo. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be magical. It's going to revolutionize the world, the whole world. Does it work? And at that point, one of the engineers in his true nerdy style will say, boss, define work. All right, restart. We're going to launch next Friday, and we're going to do some amazing cross-border transactions and show the world what we're made of, right? And then I start hearing about APIs and how our node has to stabilize and how our code review has to be done. The policies have to be written. And boss, you've given us so little time to do so much. We're trying, we're doing our best, and so on and so forth. So this is the normal dialogue that happens between the product side that wants to launch a product and the engineering side that wants to make the golden screwdriver as perfect as it can get. So just wanted to give you a sense of what is happening here. And so I end by asking, hey, listen, guys, do you think Elon Musk asks anybody's permission before he puts his hand on the launch button? He expects the rocket to go. You get it? Yes, sir. We're trying to do the best we can. All right, fine. We'll get through it today. So that's my day today. Hopefully, I will give you a much better update as to our specific go live date, but we are very close, very close. We're loving it. It's a process. You know, it's just one of those things. It's code is like, you know, you can't get 9 women and have a 1-month pregnancy for each and get a baby, right? So it's just the same effect. It just takes its time. You know, there are design flaws, there are bugs, there are things that need to be sorted out. This is the first time anyone in the world is, you know, putting Bitcoin and integrating a Bitcoin treasury into your, you know, traditional treasury of a bank. So anyway, I just wanted to give you a sense of where I am today. I'm in my lovely El Salvador hotel room because it's still early here. It's about 8 o'clock. And I just wanted to make sure that I could, you know, get this show and discuss with you how our Private Key Capital, our bank, is actually going to transform the financial industry. And I don't say that lightly. You know, we're really creating tremendous amount of thought leadership at Private Key Capital. Look, I even got a shirt which says Private Key Capital. I don't know if you can read it or if you can see it. But anyway, we're creating intellectual capital. We are driving change. This is not just about taking off the shelf components and making something out of it. We're actually writing code. We are developing architectures. We're filing patents. We're developing intellectual capital, right? And so I really need you to understand that this is what we are doing as a community, as the Bitcoin Ben Crypto Club, as a Private Key Capital. This is fairly, revolutionary stuff that we are doing right here in the heart of El Salvador, where the true Bitcoin and digital money revolution is going on. So today, my topic is really about the Petro-Bitcoin. We talk about petrodollars. You all know what that is. You've heard Ben talk about it a lot. But there's a nexus of energy and Bitcoin and banking that is starting to emerge, which deserves a deeper insight, and how this convergence is going to drive the next wave of acquisitions, the next wave of business models, economic models. This is where the next generation of wealth, true wealth, the Rockefeller kind of wealth, the mining wealth, the oil boom wealth, this is where it will be created. And I feel that the time is upon us. I'm literally, as I'm sitting here in my hotel room and our credit union is next door where I'm going to go for this code review, I'm feeling that the time is upon us. I have a heightened sense of urgency, almost like, man, we're not moving fast enough. Even though we're moving as fast as we can, we're moving faster than most other companies can. We're pushing our developers to their absolute limits. I don't want them to break, but we are pushing them. But I feel like we need to move faster because this is a time of great change. It is a time of great upheaval, good way, in a very good way. And I also feel that we need to add a lot more fuel to this engine that we're building called Private Key Capital. Because when we do, and what we mean by fuel, we're going to get investments, institutional investments, family offices, not just retail investments. And we're going to deploy that capital. That's the fuel. That's the money we'll deploy into creating these new business models. See, that change that digital economy is talking about is not going to come from your traditional banks. It's not going to come from your traditional oil companies. It is going to come from people like us who see the future, who see the convergence, because we will be able to transform how major industries do business by showing use cases, by showing a vertical integrated slice, by actually doing a pilot, which could be a few $1 million, which will then become a few $100 million, which will become a few billion. So as we launch our headquarters for Private Key Capital in West Palm Beach, as I've mentioned before, we will be focusing on 5 vertical markets. I'll call them sectors or vertical markets. We're going to have a very defined focus. The first area of focus is going to be energy and mining. We're going to make investments in that broad sector. We're going to create intellectual capital in that broad sector. The second area is going to be banking and finance. The third sector will be travel and hospitality. The fourth one will be real estate and Bitcoin. The fifth one will be food sovereignty and supply chain, beef on blockchain. And finally, the sixth, actually it's going to be sixth, which I use as our base, is education and Bitcoin consulting. So all of our clubs that we already have, and as we have stated before, in the next 3 years, we're going to have 30 clubs, 30. We're going to have to make investments into these clubs. Private Key Capital is going to allocate capital for education and Bitcoin consulting. There will be new consulting companies that will be created that consults small and medium businesses on how they can become a Bitcoin treasury company, how they can change their business models. So these are the areas that we're going to focus on in 2026. We're going to be laser focused on making investments in these sectors and showing the use case to the world of how this new model of economics makes money. So over the next 5 weeks, I'm going to actually do a series for Private Key Capital starting today. Over the next 5 to 6 weeks, each one of those areas I just mentioned, I'm going to actually do a deeper dive, tell you what our thesis is for each one of those areas. So today it's energy and mining. That's the sector I want to discuss. I want to discuss what our thesis is. I want to discuss what investments we will be making. And those will lead to more acquisitions. That will lead to operations. That will lead to cash flow. That's how it always is, isn't it? That's how a business is built. So we have the ideas. We have already made investments in mining. We are looking at energy fields where we can generate our own energy. We're going to take our Bitcoin and make it into a Bitcoin treasury for a bank or a credit union like ours. Then we're going to create digital credit that allows us to capitalize on that digital capital. This is a new way of doing things. This is pulling together different parts of businesses that are extremely convergent right now. Few people see it right now, but allow me to delve into what Petro-Bitcoin actually means, what treasures it hides, and how we, as Private Key Capital, you, I, Ben, we together will unlock that potential. Now, many years ago, probably about 8 years ago, I was called to do an acquisition on behalf of a Argentinian company, oil company. And they sent me to this little godforsaken town called Palacios, Texas, where there was an oil services company that I wanted to acquire. And that oil services company was about 30, 40 trucks. And what they did was they would go to all the orphaned or oil wells that are not generating enough oil. The pressure is not there. They would go and take these trucks and heat up oil and then pour it down the tube so that it could melt out the paraffins and the oil would start to gush again. So that was their job. They went and basically put chemicals and hot oil back into the chute so that the oil well would start to become productive again. The pressures would come up and we could get oil again. And I had the wonderful opportunity to, get on one of the oil men's trucks at night and go and look at some of these oil wells that had to be worked so that they could become productive. And I could see, the flame flickering in the sky at night, and you hear the sound of the pressure valves hissing like serpents, and the air is heavy with the scent of methane. It's definitely an experience when you stand under the star-studded sky and you look at this flare that is just being wasted effectively. But in many ways, that, my friends, is what civilization is about. It's basically burning itself to stay warm. Over the centuries, crude oil has been the lifeblood of progress. It's by many measures, the only true measure of economic growth, of industrial growth, of the industrialization. Oil has funded wars. It has funded empires. It has created fortunes beyond anybody's imagination. But here's what's happening right now. See, the oil business, and I was in Dallas last week talking to a bunch of oil people from very significant big companies like BP and other large multi-billion-dollar oil companies, right? And the oil business, like many monarchies, is dying, not from a lack of reserves, but from a lack of exhaustion on the return of capital. You see, for 40 years, the oil industry was always the dominant wealth engine. The return on capital for oil averaged 18 to 22% in the 1980s. In the 1990s, that return on capital fell down to 12 to 15%. And then it crashed under 8% in right about 2010 when that COVID hit. And we really haven't recovered from that margin. That 9-10% margin is what you get in oil, even with $80 a barrel for crude oil, right? And meanwhile, the inflation-adjusted cost per barrel has tripled since 1980, from $15 a barrel to produce it to almost $45 to $50 a barrel, to produce oil today. See, what that tells me is the system, the oil system, is running out of margin. That oil that was $37 a barrel, $35 a barrel back in the 1980s, that's about 130 in today's dollars. But you had the crash in 86, you had the crash in 2008, you had a crash in 2020. And each time the crashes happened, the oil industry executives went out to Washington and said, please, oh, please, keep oil above $70 and everything's going to be okay. But it's not okay. It's not okay. You see, in the 1980s, it cost about $7 to pull a barrel out of the ground. And now at $50, $55, once you count in exploration, transportation, compliance, energy compliance, all the Clean Air Act, all kinds of BS. There's so many costs that even though the international agency will tell you that more and more investments are now going into production, the world is drifting into oversupply. The prices are low. The US shale wells have declined 60% for the first time, forcing companies to just drill endlessly, and yet the output is flat. It's like that Michael Phelps swimming in that swimming pool, which doesn't move against the water. You stay in the same place, even though you're exerting energy. That's what's going on. They're exerting more and more energy every year just to stay in place. It's a treadmill that's lubricated by debt. And from a profit perspective, in 2006, if you look at Exxon's annual report, Exxon almost produced a 35% profit. Wow, that's good. That's what the boom was about. What about 2016? What happened? It collapsed to below 4%. That's not a business. They complain about volatility in Bitcoin. Look at yourselves first. Look at the volatility in the oil prices, the margins. Margins went in 10 years from 35% to 3.9%. That's not business. That's a slow motion autopsy. So let me tell you what investors are demanding. The investors are demanding dividends. That's the only thing that matters to them. The easy oil, the light sweet crude, it's running out. So what do? What do you do when that molecule on which you have built your empire no longer pays the bills? What do? You sell energy to someone who can pay the bills. Yep, you guessed it. You guys know it. It's the digital gold. Salvador's writing, let's mine some. Absolutely. So instead of flaring and creating the fire in the sky, you capture the gas. You feed it into a generator. You power a Bitcoin mining facility. Each megawatt of power can earn between $100,000 and $200,000 in Bitcoin, depending on the difficulty and the price. Your fuel cost is near zero because it's stranded gas. It's the gas that's flaring. Your profit margin is not 5% or 3.9% like Exxon had. It's 70%. It's 60%. It changes the economics. Oil no longer needs a refinery. What the oil industry needs right now, it needs a node. Let's be precise. 1 megawatt 1 megawatt can potentially, which is going to cost us, if you're converting the associated gas at 2 million BTU, your total cost is roughly $20 to $25 per megawatt, right? At the current hash rate, that same megawatt will produce about $90 per megawatt hour in hash rate. That's almost 2 to 3 times the margin of selling on the grid. There is no transmission fee. There is no interconnect delays for 6 months. I'm talking to people in Iowa, and they said they've been waiting for 9 months just to get the interconnect permitting. No bureaucrats asking for environmental impact statements. You are monetizing pure energy instantly, globally, into the hardest asset known to man. Oil, when it's sold as molecules, becomes fiat money. Oil, when sold as Bitcoin, becomes digital capital, right? So let's zoom in. So what do I see happening here? An oil company, many of you know that, some of you perhaps don't, so I'll just walk you through the very basics of it. An oil company has basically 3 divisions. It has a upstream, it has a midstream, and it has a downstream, right? The upstream pulls the crude out, pulls the natural gas out, pumps, does all kinds of things. The midstream is a bunch of pipelines along with turbos that, turbo pumps that push that gas through at a certain pressure that moves the molecules. And downstream are the refineries that refine the products. Now here we have an opportunity to have a 4th segment of the supply chain, a digital stream that can, starting with, monetize the waste, capture the flare, and mint it into Bitcoin, right? The balance sheet fundamentally transforms. Instead of having inventory in barrels only, you are now also holding Bitcoin treasury. Oh, by the way, that's the same Bitcoin treasury that you can borrow against at 5% and lend it out at 12% and back it with the cleanest, strongest collateral in existence in humanity. You've basically taken a declining hydrocarbon enterprise and turned it into high-yield digital financial engine. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is what we are trying to do right here in Private Key Capital. Although it is a smaller size, the concept is being proven out. We are getting into the energy business. We are going to work with a small oil field, natural gas, put a turbine, generate our own power our miners, let those miners and miners hum. There is no midstream. See, I can co-locate the giga container, which has a bunch of miners in it, put a cement pad down, and put it right next to my upstream facility. I don't need to pay millions of dollars to transport the molecules over all the way to the refinery. We can remove that entire cost. So it's not just the profit equation. See, when I talk to the oil industry executives, I'm saying, you sell molecules, I sell bits. You sell barrels of oil, I sell Bitcoin. Which one do you think is going to win? And where do you think these two industries will go as they come together? We are transforming this environment and showing the world that a convergence of energy and Bitcoin mining, coupled with banking, treasury, and hybrid credit products, can actually create a completely different economic model than the world knows today. I'm going to take a quick commercial break, Sherpa, and come back and talk about how this convergence will play out over the next 5 to 10 years. So, Sherpa, over to you. Let's play our commercial, and then we'll be right back.
Your Bitcoin sitting idle. Time to make it work. Private Key Capital, the world's first fully Bitcoin-backed financial institution, lets you earn 4% APY on your Bitcoin. Enjoy Bitcoin savings accounts, secure custody, Bitcoin-backed loans, fiat on-off ramps, and exclusive member benefits. This is crypto banking reimagined. Early members get the best rates. Join Private Key Capital today and start earning 4%.
All right, and we are back to Bitcoin Thursdays with Dr. J. And we're going to focus on the Petro-Bitcoin, what that world looks like. We literally have to look into the looking glass and say, where's the world going to go? And how do we get there first? How do we front run it? Because those who get there first are going to take the lion's share of the profits. They will get acquired, they will make money, and they will become the mainstream model in coming years. Let's step back to 2000. Many of you are old enough, like I am, to remember that there was this little company called AOL, America Online. You remember that? You've got mail. The internet company had no factories. It had no oil fields. It didn't have any ships. But it decided to buy this other little company called Time Warner. It was inconceivable until it wasn't. You see, AOL bought Time Warner, not the other way about. So today, Coinbase trades at what, 90 billion? MicroStrategy is close to 100 billion. Well, that's about the same size of British Petroleum, right? Let that sink in. Let that sink in. Give yourself the breathing room to think about what is actually happening. Let's just stand back and look at what is happening. MicroStrategy, Coinbase are trading about at the same equity value as the other little company called British Petroleum. Now, granted, Exxon is a whole lot bigger, but we're getting there. Stay with me. Stay with me. Let's think this through. All right? Let's just think this through. So a Bitcoin company, a Bitcoin Treasury Reserve company, on paper, for a stock-for-stock swap, could buy a major oil company. Use high multiples of digital equity to buy low multiples of physical assets. You see, Bitcoin companies trade at higher multiples than that silly oil company, which is a commodities business, right? It's the same playbook. It's the same asymmetry. It's the same madness. This, what I'm talking about right now, is most people think it's madness. But down the road, when it happens, it'll become brilliance in hindsight. You see, when a Bitcoin treasury company announces the acquisition of an oil producer, the world will finally understand that money and energy were never, ever separate industries. They were two sides of the same coin. See, and here's the secret sauce. Here's why it works. Oil produces cash. It's cash flow. Bitcoin produces capital. Put those two together, and you can fund expansion. You can fund debt servicing. You can have treasury growth without ever tapping into an external capital market. Think about it. You put these together, and you don't need to go to an external capital market with your begging bowl in hand, begging for cash, because your oil is producing cash flow. And your Bitcoin becomes your balance sheet. And your credit desk issues loans backed by your own Bitcoin reserves. And digital credit is born from digital capital. So here's the end game. What does it start to look like? Let's put these playing blocks together that we are talking about this morning. What's the end game? It's basically Petro-Bitcoin. It's a vertically integrated stack that integrates energy, where the molecules feed the electrons, The electrons mint the Bitcoin. The Bitcoin finances the next well. You see how this works? The energy, the molecules produce electrons, which produce Bitcoin, which produces new capital, which then goes back and allows us to drill more oil wells. So while the oil business is dying slowly, not because the world has stopped needing energy, because it forgot what energy is. Energy is work. Energy is life. Energy is value. Energy is freedom. Energy is trust. What do those words remind you of? Bitcoin. Bitcoin remembers those things. Bitcoin remembers what energy is. And I think that there are going to be distressed oil assets coming into this world very soon, where the most rational transaction is going to be a Bitcoin-backed company acquiring those undervalued assets. We're going to look for those. And we're going to build a structure at Private Key Capital that allows us to actually go and build this perpetual engine. See, every Bitcoin mined enters the balance sheet as a tier 1 collateral. 50% of that Bitcoin can be given as LTV, loan to value. Look what Salt Lending is doing. They're going up to 70% loan to value at what, 14% interest rate. Let's say we stay very conservative and stay at 50% loan to value. We're generating 10, 12% basically at the institutional lending desk. That spread is a 5 to 6% spread. That's 600 to 700 bips, all without selling a single Bitcoin. So now the oil well, which originally generated only one income stream, which is selling the molecules, now has 3 separate income streams. The energy sales, right, in terms of Bitcoin mined. The appreciation of Bitcoin based on a historical perspective, let's say growing 30 to 40% a year. And then you got the credit yields, which are the Bitcoin-backed loans, generating 600 to 700 bips right there. So the combination of these 3 separate financial streams, I call them energy streams because energy is money. It's the same thing. It's all the same. This energy is money, right? This hybrid entity now provides an effective return, which is magnitudes higher than the effective returns that they're currently producing. Their profit margins are dying. Their return on capital is dying. And when an industry the size of the oil industry has a crisis, that's an opportunity for somebody else so large that the world hasn't seen an opportunity of that size. So power conversion, let's look at even let's say a 500 megawatt. It's not a very large, it's not a very small site. 150 megawatts is a good site. But just to get you a sense of the math, a small, insignificant oil business, which is roughly 500 megawatts, tiny compared to the majors, that can generate between 100 and 125 Bitcoin per month. That's about 1,200 to 1,500 Bitcoin annually at the price of about $110, $111. I don't know what it is today, about 111. Yeah, that's about $170 million revenue. $170 million revenue for this little business. And the operational cost, fuel, operations, maintenance, all of that stuff is about 60 million. That means you're going to get an EBITDA of about $105 million. That's a margin of over 60% of this new model that I'm talking about. You got 100 million in free cash flow at 10x multiple. That's $1 billion company. that's a company that I could probably buy at less than 50 million, 60 million right now and convert it into $1 billion company, because we are changing the economic model of the oil industry. You see, it doesn't sell oil anymore. It doesn't sell Bitcoin anymore. It sells Bitcoin. It doesn't sell molecules anymore. So this model is being developed by private key capital. This delta that we're talking about for this tiny one oil field to a bigger revenue generating capability, this delta is not even this is not incremental. This is not even close. It's just a evolutionary step. It's a huge step. And frankly, already a Bitcoin treasury with, say, 10,000 Bitcoin in it, 10,000 Bitcoin, that's about $1.1 billion. That can support a $500 million revolving line of credit. And that can buy smaller energy fields. It can retrofit it. It can even do equity buybacks. It can become self-financing, where our own treasury is minting its own capital. Traditional oil companies pay 6 to 8% for the debt, long-term debt, to finance the digging of oil new wells for exploration. The hybrid pays nothing. In fact, it generates yield, makes money, while its digital capital expense. Right? So civilization's most profitable companies in the next 10 years will not be a bank or an oil major. It'll be a combination of both. A corporation that owns oil wells, it owns turbines, it owns data centers, it owns a Bitcoin treasury. It never sleeps. It'll mine, it will lend, it'll self-finance, and the profit margin will not depend on OPEC. All the talking heads on NBC and CNBC talking about the Federal Reserve minutes and what OPEC is doing to oil price and what the OPEC is thinking about in the future and what the minister is saying. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. We don't care. The only thing that matters is thermodynamics. The only thing that matters is mathematics of hash functions. SHA-256. See, we don't care what the OPEC says. Once you have a model like this, it fundamentally transforms the industry. A business, a solid business that can generate 60, 80% returns every year instead of 4 to 5%. It can take a $50 to $100 million investment, turn it into $1 billion, multi-billion dollar market cap within 5 years. That's what my projections are saying. That's what my projections are saying. I've run a bunch of models on this. And when that happens, the world will gasp and say, wow, we should have thought of this. We will. We will partner with the right companies, and we're pushing hard night and day. Time is ticking. We got to push every single minute. Sleep is overrated. We can sleep when we die. Just keep going forward, because he who controls the energy controls the economy. He who controls the Bitcoin controls the energy itself. That is what's going to happen. So remember that flare in the night, that's a beacon. It's not a wasted energy just escaping into the air. It's profits waiting for someone with courage to come in and capture it. Together, oil and Bitcoin and credit, this is the new industrial revolution that is taking place. Energy, new money, and sovereignty. None of this is speculation. I say that because in my mind, I've already thought of this as something that is real. Perhaps it will become real. Perhaps some of you will want to be part of it. But the energy and mining sector is going to be a key focus area for private key capital. We're going to raise funds, not just from retail investors, which is amazing, which we have already deployed millions of dollars into Bitcoin mining. We have domain expertise. We have metrics. We are now getting into the energy industry. And by that, I mean, even if it's 10 oil wells, we need to own our energy sources. And the economics of that is no longer selling oil. The economics is selling Bitcoin, where the oil or the natural gas simply becomes a cost for production, cost of goods sold. The goods we are selling is not oil. The goods we are selling is Bitcoin. Oil is simply a cost, which means what happens when I see a balance sheet, when I look at an income statement? What am I looking for? The P&L. I want to minimize my cost and I want to maximize the price at which I can get something, increasing the margin and returning shareholder value. That's the only thing we do, right? We return shareholder value. And shareholders can be every single person who's listening to this right now. It's you. So as we get into owning our own energy, no matter how small or big, we will prove out an economic model which is highly efficient, an economic model which has significant margins, an economic model which is not speculation, which it doesn't depend on the OPEX whims and fancies, an economic model that's rooted in mathematics, into predictability and margins that certainly for the next 10 years will continue to grow. And I'm sure like everything else, it'll stabilize at some point and become a cash cow, as they call it. But this new trinity, energy, money, sovereignty, this is what the next industrial age is about. And we, my friends, are going to be on the forefront of it. So come join us at Private Key Capital. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of business development to be done. We have a lot of investments to be raised. We have a lot of operational metrics to be streamlined, fine-tuned. And once we have that, within the next 12 to 18 months, we have actual operational metrics. That data on what the margins are, how much the cost is for developing, what is the cost for operations, how many workers do I need on that cement pad to keep my mining engines humming and running. When we have that empirical data from the pilot, that's gold, because that data is more valuable than you know. That data is where the multi-$100 billion companies will be coming to and saying, let's take this, folks, and replicate it in 10 more oil fields, and then 100, and then 1,000. This is not speculation. This world is coming. I'm convinced of it. You think about it. Have a beautiful day. God bless you, and God bless America. Over and out.
What if I told you a truck driver cracked the code to building a crypto empire? Meet Bitcoin Ben. He went from driving 18-wheelers to creating 6 different ways for regular people to stack Bitcoin and build wealth. This isn't just another crypto course. This is a complete ecosystem where you earn while you learn. First up, the confidential bulk purchase program. Get Bitcoin at wholesale prices through group buying power. Then there's Home to HODL. Convert your home equity directly into Bitcoin instead of cash. Need funding? The Loans for Bitcoin program gets you the capital to buy more crypto. Want passive income? Private Key Capital puts your Bitcoin to work. Hungry for something different? Bitcoin Ben's tokenized beef lets you invest in real cattle backed by blockchain technology. And if you want to mine? Bitcoin Ben's mining program gets you started with the right equipment and knowledge. But here's the kicker. Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club pays you to learn. Earn 10% on direct referrals, 5% on second level, 2% on third level. This might be the only membership where you make more than you pay. Ben went from 10 years behind the wheel to becoming the world's most unlikely crypto expert. Now he's sharing everything through live training, community events, and proven systems that work. Ready to stop watching from the sidelines? Join Bitcoin Ben's Crypto Club today and start stacking sats while building your financial future. Your truck driving days are over. Your crypto empire starts now.